I got my chat box up so you can just let me know.
Got it.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. While we wait for everyone to log in, I want to introduce myself, the panelists, and the National Volunteer Fire Council, as well as an outline of how today's event will unfold. My name is Lieutenant Michael McLeieer, and I'm the past president of the Michigan State Firemen's Association. I'm also the president and founder of Escape Incorporated, a nonprofit that delivers safe, effective, and economical fire and life safety to training to children and adults of all ages. Now I'd like to introduce our panelists. I'm joined today by Andrea Vastis, Senior Director of Public Education at the National Fire Protection Association, and Teresa Neal, Fire Program Specialist at the U.S. Fire Administration. Before we begin, I want to briefly introduce the NVFC and the topic for today's discussion. The National Volunteer Fire Council is the leading nonprofit membership association representing the interests of the volunteer fire, EMS, and rescue services. The NVFC's mission is to provide a unified voice for volunteer fire and EMS organizations in the U.S. They provide resources, training, advocacy, and programs to help the volunteer emergency services thrive. You can learn more about the NVFC and what they do, as well as access their resources at nvfc.org. If you're not already a member, I want to encourage you to join. It only costs $18 a year and comes with a variety of benefits such as free training in the NVFC virtual classroom, access to the Volunteer Voices member community, and much more. You can learn more at www.nvfc.org/join. With Fire Prevention Week taking place October 3rd through the 9th, now is the time to prepare so you're ready to engage with your community during this critical week. This year's theme is Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety and focuses on educating the public on the different sounds smoke and carbon monoxide alarms make. Today's discussion will focus on the importance of this year's theme and how departments can engage with their communities during Fire Prevention Week while still taking COVID-19 related restrictions and precautions into account. I have some questions in front of me already to begin, but if you, our audience, have any questions, please feel free to write them in the comments below, and we will do our best to answer all we can. So I'd like to start with Andrea. Andrea, please tell us about how the NFPA picked this year's Fire Prevention Week theme.
Thank you. Well, thanks so much, Michael. Really pleased to be here, of course, to be alongside my colleague from USFA, Teresa Neal, and so many thanks to NVFC for inviting me and for having us here today. So obviously Fire Prevention Week, now in its 99th year, every year we come up with a theme that needs to be universal enough so that we can across North America, something that impacts everybody, but whether you are rural or urban and across demographics, something that's universal enough and still has a call to action. And the pandemic really gave us something we had never had before, a window into people's homes. And with all of the remote learning, all of the remote teaching and working, we started having this phenomenon. Teachers were hearing the chirps in the background of their students' homes. And they were like, what's going on? I think that means something. And they would reach out to their local fire department and say, I hear this chirp in the background. And the fire department would say, here's some information. Yes, let the family know that their smoke alarm, the battery is dying, or they need a new alarm. And the next day they'd be with their student, and say, oh, good, I don't hear the alarm anymore. And the student would say, yeah, we took it down. And so what we found was people don't know what to do, or they kind of know what's going on, but they're not recognizing the severity of it and the need to act immediately. And so this became an incredible phenomenon. We saw this in TikToks because all of a sudden everybody's making a TikTok during the pandemic. People were hearing the chirps in the background. Whether it was, I had a colleague, I'm hearing the chirp in the background. And even we were seeing smoke alarms going off in the background, and we were hearing stories of home fires that were happening. And now we had a glimpse into the alarm going. So we realized that, people understand the need for a smoke alarm, but do they really understand what's going on there? Can they distinguish that sound from something else? Are they taking that chirp seriously? And that's really what led us to learn the sounds of fire safety.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, there's a lot of good information that's certainly come out of COVID times that probably this had been going on for quite some time. And because of all the virtual learning, we were starting to realize, hey, this problem was there. A great community risk assessment for the whole country to really understand the importance here. Why is it important that the public know the difference between the different sounds of alarms? You talked about chirping. What does that actually mean?
Yeah. And, I think what it is what we found is that the chirp was turning into white noise for a lot of people. And so if somebody didn't act on it right away, they were learning to actually live with it. And we were finding that people were saying, oh yeah, I forgot, I stopped even hearing it. And we know that the chirp lasts about 30 days and then it's done. And if that 30 days go by and the chirp is done, now they've completely forgotten about it and people aren't protected. And so that was one of the really critical pieces of it. I think the other piece is that if people aren't testing their smoke alarms, they don't know what it really means. And it goes off, and that beep, 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 beep goes off. And there is too much time going on in their head while they're like, well, what is that? Wait, is that my smoke alarm? What is that? And again, now we're wasting time, and fire moves fast. We know that from the time the smoke alarm goes off, you have just literally minutes to get out. And if you're taking too much time to just figure out what's going on, now you've lost even more time.
Very good point. Teresa, what resources does the U.S. Fire Administration have that's going to complement this year's Fire Prevention Week theme?
Sure. We always have a number of handouts that you can download and customize and use. I know we were talking about ways at some point, I hope I'm not jumping too far ahead, of reaching out to communities when we're still trying to be distant and not have big gatherings of people. And so one of the things that I think we talked about it last year because it was during COVID, but was, fire departments can also print off, home escape plans, the grids for children to fill out, or they can print out a fire safety checklist, and they can take these to restaurants and tell them to give it out when their people are taking, delivering orders, or put it in the bags or whatever, so they can get some messages out to the public. So we have those, and you can customize them with your own department's logo on it, so it's not coming from USFA. Also, we have social media assets. So on our website, if you go to prevention and then you scroll down on the right-hand side, there will be a place for our social media assets, a library. And so we have social cards, we have pictographs, we have B-roll that you can use, and photographs that you can use to make your own social cards or vignettes for your social channels or your website. All of those are there for you to use. No attribution needed.
And the great thing is they're free of charge. There's no cost.
Right. And lots of the things you can order. Well, now it's a little bit late to order. All of our ordering, it takes about 4 weeks from an order to actually get it. But if you find that you aren't able to, order now, but especially for the kids, all the assets are right there on the kids page on our website. So when you go there, you can download coloring sheets. You can download the entire coloring book or activity book, but you can also download individual sheets. If you do have a group of children together, it's October, it's preschool or kindergarten, even first grade. We have the Sesame Street materials that you can listen to listen to the songs or the read-alongs right from the website, and you can print off the accompanying materials.
That's great to know. And that was just recently updated just prior to COVID, wasn't it, Sesame Street?
A little bit prior, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. So if people, if the audience hasn't taken a look at that recently and they're familiar with the older Sesame Street, it's a whole new robust kit that's out there and certainly available for them to be able to utilize in their communities, either as preschool teachers or as firefighter educators. That's great information, Teresa. Excellent. Andrea, let me come back to you. Would you mind showing our audience, maybe kind of sharing your screen and walking through those that maybe haven't been familiar with firepreventionweek.org or fpw.org, what's there, how do they access it, and how easy is it for our audience to navigate so that they can use those resources and those assets right within their local community?
Happy to. Yay. Okay. Tell me if you can see my screen.
We can. Yes.
Awesome. So we have a dedicated website for Fire Prevention Week. This launches in June when we launch the theme. And now we'll be up all the way through until next year's Fire Prevention Week launch in June. So these are materials that you have access to throughout the year. And honestly, tomorrow I'm actually going to be presenting at the Massachusetts Fire and Life Safety Conference, which is all about giving your Fire Prevention Week legs to keep it year round, because this is great. I think people need to consider Fire Prevention Week and really the month of activities as a springboard. You may use this as a great way to bring people in that you haven't used before, people to come into your sphere of your social media, your efforts, and now you've got them and have things that you can do. So taking you through the website a little bit, because again, and I want to thank Teresa, because USFA has some really amazing assets in their digital library. And obviously, you know, we do a lot together. And so we love to work together and highlight each other's assets. So when it comes to Fire Prevention Week and our website, 4 key pages for you to really take a look at. And so we have, when you scroll, this is a scrolling kind of website, all different things that you can do. So the home page can take you right to a few different things. What is Fire Prevention Week about? What are some key activities you can do related to this theme? The materials that we have, the videos. I am going to show you our new video, which I'm really excited to show you in just a moment. We're leading the people to the About page. The About page has what we would really want to see the consumer, right, the homeowner download: the tip sheet in English and Spanish and the family action plan in English and Spanish. And it's really important because it's the kind of thing that they can post up, and it reminds them to test their smoke alarms monthly. It reminds them to have that escape plan and practice it. Some frequently asked questions about smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. And these are things people like, what? Do I need both? What's the difference between the two? And why do I need both? How do I know what I'm supposed to have? And, you know, that's always been one of the hardest pieces of it is we tell people go get a smoke alarm and then they go to the big box store and they're inundated, right? And what's best. And really, this is the opportunity to let people know, you know, depending on your home, depending on your needs, and depending on your budget, there is a smoke alarm for you. And then, of course, some of the history. The video about the Great Chicago Fire is one that teachers use all the time, right? Because it's a really good way to say when there aren't rules in place, when there aren't standards, when there aren't building codes, when people aren't paying attention, really bad things can happen. And that's why we celebrate every October. Our toolkit is the thing for educators. So take a look at the toolkit. We actually have an over hour-long webinar that you're welcome to take a look at and see, but we've created a lot of templates for you. So whether it's an event flyer that you can just fill in, and again, multiple languages, proclamations, always a great way to get some media attention. The updated educational messaging desk reference, the 2020 edition is in here. Some press releases, and I know you're going to be talking about some out-of-the-box ideas that are going on, and this document has a whole bunch of them right there. Now, social media cards, English and Spanish. This is for you. We have formatted them for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we have a variety of them. Last year, Bill, people really liked our Bill, move that, our Bill social media cards. This one's actually an animated GIF. So Bill knows nothing lasts forever. So be like Bill and change your smoke alarm after 10 years. And it actually shows Bill changing the alarm. And so we have some very interesting ones that are important. Again, people can use those campaigns, logos, and that is definitely something you want to be able to use. And then the Teach Fire Safety. I'd like to point out a couple of things on the Teach Fire Safety, because again, we have the Home Family Action Plan. We've got some infographics because again, depending on the literacy level, and obviously people know that our tip sheets come in multiple languages for people who are new to this country. This year we have Adventures with Sparky. So you can print him out, color him in, and take him along and make him your social media influencer. This is important, the sounds of fire safety. We've actually embedded in the website sounds, fire engine sound, smoke alarm, carbon monoxide alarm, the chirp, and a few dog barking. And so this is a great one to be able to, what's that sound, and incorporate into the work that you do. So it's always worth scrolling through safety tip sheets and seeing what we do.
Excellent.
Thank you. I would like to point out one really important, a couple of other things, because, we're talking about the sounds of fire safety, and there are millions of people in this country, North America, who are deaf or who are hard of hearing. So even for people, for instance, who wear their hearing aids or cochlear implants during the day, they don't have them in at night. And so it's important that people recognize that they need to make sure that everyone in the home is protected. And that might be with a bedside alert device that will flash, that will speak, that will shake the bed. And so we have some dedicated assets for older adults, for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. And then of course you can always shop, when you want. So happy to keep talking. And then I really want to show you our new video that just launched in time for Fire Prevention Week when you're ready for it.
Absolutely. And that was a question one of our audience members actually posed. So thank you for talking about accommodations for the deaf and the hard of hearing, because that's so important. We want to make sure that all of our community members, all of our communities have the same access to resources and the same information, and they can see what's going to apply in their home, because all of our homes are different, our communities are different. And certainly between the U.S. Fire Administration and the National Fire Protection Association, there's a wealth of resources that people can access. So I appreciate you taking the time. Let's go ahead and look at that video. I'm kind of excited to see it.
Yeah, thanks. And I do want to tell you, if you use the hashtag Fire Prevention Week in your social media, you show up on our feed. So just use the hashtag, baby. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. You can access this through Sparky. Yep. Okay. Bum-ba-dum. Okay, and I think I initiated sound, so I'm hoping this works.
It's working correctly. Listen, what's that sound? Sometimes a smoke alarm makes a chirp sound, like a chirping bird. That means the battery is not working, or the smoke alarm is getting old. When you hear the chirp, let a grown-up know so they can change the battery, or get a new smoke alarm. A carbon monoxide alarm detects something called carbon monoxide, or CO gas. You can't see or smell CO, and it is very dangerous. If you hear a carbon monoxide alarm, get outside quickly and go to your outside meeting place. Listen closely. Can you hear one of the fire safety sounds we learned about today? Listen. That's a fire hose. Firefighters use it to put out fires. What about this sound? That's the sound of a fire truck headed to an emergency. Maybe this one? That's not a fire safety sound. That's Sparky. Listen closely. Great job! That's the fire safety sound. It's a smoke alarm. If you hear that sound, stop what you're doing, choose the best way out of the room, get outside and stay outside. Go to your outside meeting place. Nice spy skills. Sparky would be proud of you. Now, go check out the fire safety sounds of your own home. And remember, you can make a difference.
So that is from our newly updated Sparky website. You can get to it from our Fire Prevention Week website, through our kids YouTube channel, or the Sparky website. And really excited that we have that as an option for people. And then of course, purchase what you can purchase. We have the Sparky stuffies, that sort of thing. People still like to use our things, but there's so much that you can access as a download. And that's really the point, is you don't have to have a big budget to do this.
Excellent. I love the video, and I love the fact it was captioned. That was great. Reaching out to more audiences. I love the simple, plain language. It's very easy. Me having an early childhood education background, it's very easy for us to deal with the colors and shapes, as we all know, especially in early childhood education, so that we're making this messaging fun, familiar, and friendly. It's not
Right.
scary. We don't want to teach through negative reinforcement. We never want to teach through negative messaging. And again, kudos to the National Fire Protection Association for continuing to be a leader, as well as the U.S. Fire Administration, providing these assets available so that our audience and members in the community can utilize what's beneficial to them, what's important to them, and develop their own message using this national campaign, Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety.
Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing for now so that you can continue, and really do encourage people to take a look at USFA sites and the sites that we have to play around.
That's a
with
great
it.
video.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very excited. We're fortunate because we work with vendors who work with educators. So we are teachers, MDR. Everything we do, make sure that it's going to be age appropriate and aligned with standards and core curriculum. So thank you, and kudos. I'm going to give the shout out to Amy LeBeau and April Hart, who really are the masterminds behind that one.
Excellent. Excellent. That's great. Teresa, would you be able to share with our audience, Fire is Everyone's Fight? It's a campaign that's been out there for a while. It continues to evolve. It continues to grow. Many partners are a part of Fire is Everyone's Fight. How can that campaign be incorporated into Fire Prevention Week? And it actually is part of Fire Prevention Week, as well as all the messaging we do all throughout the year.
I think Fire is Everyone's Fight. I mean, first, what I'll say is that it is a national initiative, and it is for everybody to take part in. The name, just the words Fire is Everyone's Fight, is meant to teach people, to help people start thinking about what they can do, because nobody shops for responsibility. Nobody wants more responsibility or more things to do. So by saying Fire is Everyone's Fight over and over, and having people see it over and over, we hope to start changing people's ideas about fire safety, that it's not something that the fire department does or that we only do one time a year. It's something that we should be doing every day, and that we all have things that we can do to make ourselves and to make our families, and then by making our families, making our communities safer from fire. So Fires Everyone's Fight started maybe 14 years ago. It was an initiative that was first brought forward by Vision 2020 to have just a tagline that we could all embrace, that we could all start trying to change, move that needle a little bit, like I said, on people's perceptions of fire and fire safety and what they can do with it. And so what we did was after we created the logo, we've made a landing page, which will also be updated hopefully very soon, but a landing page where departments can go and register. And once they register, then they'll get access to the logo. We have many different types of them, different formats for them. They also get access to some PowerPoint presentations and to maybe some special things just for people who've actually registered for it. So I'll share my screen and I'll just let you see where to go to get to it.
That would be great, Teresa. Thank you.
Okay, so can you see it?
We can, yes.
Okay, great. So when you get to the USFA webpage, if you go to prevention, and on their first landing page, as you scroll down, you'll see in this banner right here, to join Fires Everyone's Fight. Once you hit join the fight, it takes you to the landing page for Fires Everyone's Fight. It gives you a little bit of background about it. And here, if you click here, then you can register for the logo. You're not giving your firstborn or any personal information, real personal information, because we had to trademark the logo to make sure that's being used in the proper way. We just have to grab some information to know exactly who's using it. And so you fill that out and you would get access to all of the different assets we already have. If you scroll down a little bit more, you can see here just some ways that people have used it. Like I said, Fires Everyone's Fight is the intention of it is that you are able to customize it to fit your own needs. So here are some different ways that people have used it.
What's nice about it is it's a unifying message, and yet you get to then take it and make it work along with what you're doing in your community. And I think that's, one of the reasons why it works so well.
Absolutely.
And can I just, Michael, while we're already here, I'll just go ahead and, if you don't mind, take a moment to show them the pictographs that
Please do. Yes, those are so important to make sure that people are aware of those out there and really can be beneficial in their outreach efforts.
So Pictographs came about because we work with NFPA, and we are part of the Emergency Messaging Advisory Council, and we work on messaging. One of the things, and there, I'll just tell you, everything that we do, we make sure that it is in line with the EMAC messaging, because we want to, it's very important, just like we want people to understand about Fires Everyone's Fight, that it's out there and that it's a unifying message for all of us. We also have to make sure that we're all saying the same thing and we're saying the correct thing. So the EMAC, it's not just a bunch of people sitting in a room coming up and going, I think I like it to be said like it this way. The EMAC is really, group people from across the country, from different disciplines within the fire realm, coming together and talking about messaging, hearing from the public what their ideas are or what we should say, and then running it against NFPA's code group that is able to say, okay, yes, this is correct. No, this isn't correct. So that once the EMAC is put out there, is published, it really is telling everyone, these are messages, these are technically correct messages, and you should use them. They're crafted in a way that it gives you all the information, but maybe you just need to use it in bits and pieces. Maybe you change it a little bit, the message for your for your audience, but that is the correct message. And the more that we are all saying that, just like we want everyone to say fire is everyone's fight, the more we all say the same message, like on the video that says that, you know, have smoke alarms on every level of your home, inside and outside sleeping areas. Those are all important messages, and they are critical for us to, you know, because if our public hears too many messages and they're contradicting, or, you know, one person, then you just forget it. You know, you just say, I don't, you know, they don't even know what they're talking about. You know, think about how the frustration we have felt about everybody and their mother getting on their soapbox about COVID, you know, and telling us all different ideas and their feelings about it. And this person says this and this person says that. And we keep telling people, go back to the CDC. That is where you should be getting your information from, not from everybody else. Well, that's the same thing. Our messaging needs to come from the EMAC so that we're all saying the same thing, and we're all, you know, putting our best foot forward as we're creating materials and as we're speaking to the public. But we took the EMAC messages and we thought, you know, each year USFA gets questions about, can you translate this sheet into some language, you know, and we've talked to people who live in municipalities where they've had 180 languages spoken in their community. There is no way that no one is going to be able to translate it all that, you know, translate like that. And also on top of that, sometimes when we translate, it's not the dialect that's being used in the area that you are actually trying to teach. And so we talked about what is a good way of getting good messages out. And so we chose the pictographs. And what we did was, so if you go to prevention, you're going to go to outreach materials, and then right here in your corner, it's going to say learn about pictographs. So we took the EMAC, we took each message, not every message in the EMAC, but the general message, and we pulled out those bits that are essential. And then we created pictures behind them. After they were created, we tested them. We tested them with the 3 groups that are of most, their highest population in the United States, which is Spanish. It was all 4 dialects, Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, and now I'm going to forget because I haven't left yet. But it's on this page, I promise. But anyway, so you can go ahead and it's tested by those 3 groups. They tested it once, then they would go back and they would test it again after we have made sure that it's understandable. So those that were understandable and easy to use, we turned into these pictographs, and you're able to use these. You can download them, individual cells, or you can download the entire pictograph and use it on your website. I use them on social media when I do Facebook posts a lot. Some of them are not animated, but automated so that you can actually watch them go through. But once you go to the pictograph page, then here's the collection. We have a short video here that actually tells you how to use it and how to use some templates we created so that you can just drop the pictures in to create one on smoke alarms, or to create a banner, or to create a door hanger. These are the different categories that we have. Like I said, all of the messaging is based off of the EMAC, so you know it's going to be technically correct. The pictographs have been tested, so so that you know that it has been tested, and people that English is not their first language, they understand the intent of the message, as well as people who have low literacy levels in English. They're also able to understand the intent of the message and the action that they're supposed to do. They don't go into depth. They're very short. You know, they don't go into great depths. You might have to use a couple of them because you want them to know what is the action you want them to do. What's that step you want them to do, not the whole concept of it through these pictures. But
Teresa, what I've done too, when I download those, if you can keep that one right there, kind of scroll back down just a second. So all those categories, as a fire and life safety educator, I'll build folders on my computer. I'll build one master folder, and then I take each and every one of those categories. And as you come out with new resources, new assets, or the NFPA comes out with new assets, if you're looking for something on cooking safety, which we just completed the Labor Day holiday, I was able to go to the U.S. Fire Administration and the NFPA's assets and be able to utilize those for our broadcasters so that they were able to talk about that last hurrah of the summer. What do we need to do to be safe at home when we're cooking, or more importantly, using a grill? So when people start seeing how many assets are out there, this is a great way for them to organize them on their computer. If they build these same folders, then they can look at, hey, I've got a situation where we need to talk about 911 and first aid care, and right there are your assets. So that'll help people as there's more and more that are added to both the pictographs and the resources that the NFPA has. Is just a great way for all of us to be able to organize those so that we can quickly access them when we need to.
This is going to be really huge too, because we're already starting to get a lot of questions. When we have an influx of new people into this country, whether as refugees, we know that we get the questions. What do you have in that language? What do you have to help? The agencies that are working with people that are who are helping to relocate them, they want to be able to include some of that fire safety information. For many of them, they've never worked with this kind of an oven or a stove, right? They don't know that they can't put things in the oven and then turn the oven on, but they're storing things in it. And we do that all the time. People still do that all the time. So it's those kinds of things are going to continue to be really critical in a world of every time somebody's new and they're getting up to speed with the language, and they're getting up to speed with the culture and the implements, right? The appliances.
Absolutely. Great tips, Andrea, and great point. Teresa, those are some great assets and great resources to be able to share. Again, we may have viewers here that are not aware that those were out there, so it's always important to kind of remind everyone of the fabulous opportunities that they have just a click away. And since the Educational Messaging Advisory Committee desk reference was talked about, can I toss back to you, Andrea, and maybe if you could share your screen again? Let's assume maybe we've got some people on today's Facebook Live that have no idea what the EMAC is and how that new 2020 edition now is readily available to download. They should have that in their assets to be able to look at when they're looking at creating messaging or working with the public, working with the media, whomever it happens to be.
Absolutely. And you've never heard of it? No, honestly, the Educational Messaging Advisory Committee, the committee that Teresa mentioned, multidisciplinary, right? This isn't something NFPA creates, and this is something NFPA convenes and publishes. So Sparky's hanging out on our website, by the way, if you go to our website. But the Educational Messages Advisory Committee desk reference has gotten a pretty major upgrade since the 2018 edition. We have included information about pet fire safety, juvenile fire setter information, upgraded some of the electrical information, especially with electrical vehicles, some candle fire safety. I'm trying to think, I know that there's a few other things. All you have to do is download it. It's going to ask you just for your name and email. And this is really for us to understand who is interacting with our materials. Again, you don't have to give your firstborn away. There is the report on proposals. So everybody who puts something through, every suggestion is vetted and decided upon and then acted upon appropriately. The French edition is in the 2018 and it's coming soon for 2020. And then if anybody does have a comment, if they want to propose a new message or an amendment to a message, that's just a form away, and you click on it and you fill out the form and it'll come straight to NFPA. But it is really the resource. So again, the new chapters are on pet fire safety and youth fire safety. We have absolutely upgraded the carbon monoxide, home fire escape, fire safety away from home. It's not just hotels, motels. People are using Airbnbs and VRBOs, and they're not all regulated the same way. And so it's important that people are armed with this kind of information. And, Teresa made a point of, you can take it and put it in the vernacular, right? So as long as you're staying true to the message, right? So stay with your food while you are frying, broiling, grilling on the stovetop, right? That's like, a message. Stand by your pan, right? And so you still want to be able to create the message that will work simply for your audience. And then, of course, some additional information background on the evaluation of these safety messages. Really key is fire professionals are actually, in one major survey, the second most trusted healthcare professional behind nurses. That's really critical because it means you have this awesome responsibility. And, fire service, you came into this for a reason. You came into this for the ability to be able to reach people when they need rescuing and saving, but you're also there to prevent the hazard in the first place. And as more fire departments start to take the more all hazards approach and community risk reduction approach, it is even more critical that your educational materials are sound, are vetted, are based on not just fire science, but behavioral science. It's not just about what the fire science says, it's about what we know people do and the psychology of people's behaviors. And that's where that art and science and that blend comes into play for the educational messaging desk reference. So yeah, you just need to go to nfpa.org/EMAC and you'll find it, and you can download it again for free. And then on our public education website is where you can find all sorts of kinds of things. Again, when you need the data and research, all the different kinds of reports that have come out, anytime we're going to have a new webinar or a new training, but of course the PubEd website is always at your disposal as well.
And the nice thing is, even on the U.S. Fire Administration website, there's a link back to the NFPA so that both sites are going to cross-reference. If you get in one site and you're looking for something and you say, well, I want to see what else is out there, the two trusted resources, and I also work in the broadcast media world, so I always let our reporters know the two trusted sources they should always go to is the U.S. Fire Administration and the National Fire Protection Association. Those are going to be the resources. The assets are there, consistent messaging. And when we're telling a story and we're trying to persuade the public, which we do in fire and life safety education, to make safer and better choices, we want to make sure that that messaging is always consistent. So I thank both of you for sharing that, because I'm very reliant on EMAC, and I always like to never assume that someone out there doesn't know that that resource is there. And I like both of you to really talk about that, because it's a valuable resource that is free but is updated regularly. Now we've got some questions coming in, and one here is, this is the second year that Fire Prevention Week is taking place in midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Are there any other takeaways or lessons from last year that can still be applied to this year's event, especially for those communities that are still practicing social distancing, maybe higher than normal COVID numbers with the Delta strain, things of that nature? Teresa, could I start with you on this one?
Well, like I said earlier, the different ideas of printing out and providing these resources to restaurants in your area that do delivery, those types of things. I know one of the neat things that I saw last year was, especially at the beginning of COVID, and I'm not sure that I see it as much, but is the fire chiefs or firefighters doing a Facebook Live and reading to their community. This is a good time where you could do one of those quick Facebook Lives and put it out to your community and let them see you talk about, read a story or talk to them about one of the pages that you print out yourself, and then provide the link for them to print out at home of, some of the things that either of the organizations have done. You could do a Facebook Live and even, I'm sure, even show the video from your fire department that Andrea showed today, which, we're all loving that kind of stuff, you know, because of Blue's Clues and Steve came back and everybody's excited. And so you can use that type of video, you know, and do a Facebook Live and show that to your community so that they can see you putting it out instead of them going to find it.
I love it. I think that's a great tip right there. Excellent. Thanks, Teresa. Andrea, how about some resources that you have heard of or have known that have worked in communities?
Yeah, you know, right? What is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So last year we had to do a lot of things, and it became about creative partnerships. And it became about who else can tell your story for you, who else has a vested interest. And so who in your community is willing to follow, share, amplify your message. And so obviously social media is still going to be a big piece of it, and it's never going away, right? You know, if we waved our magic wand and the pandemic were gone tomorrow, we'd all still live in a hybrid world. People still want to do things off their phones and in a digital fashion. So, you know, really upping your social media game and asking community partners to be part of it for you. It's the reason why we create social media cards for you to use and amplify it, is get someone else to tell the story. One really great idea that I heard from one of our partners is they're working with audiologists in their community, because audiologists are all about making sure people who have hearing issues are identified and have the implements they need. And again, that we need to make sure that we're not just, you know, always talking about the sound of a smoke alarm and assuming everybody can hear that smoke alarm. So it's really about getting people to amplify your message on social media, and who else in your community might be interested in this as well and is willing to do it with you and for you. You have a story to tell, and that story is, these things save lives, these things are necessary, and people don't know what to do. And then you bring those community partners. You know, we used a lot of restaurants because last year was the cooking theme. This year are like your hardware stores, and anybody else who, you know, has really, they're in the community, and that's your senior centers. I know that most people now are saying they're going to be doing hybrid. So they might do small in-person things, but then they need to be able to use that TikTok, social media as a way to reach. And please don't ever forget your places of worship and where people congregate, right? And that's like your supermarkets and your places of worship. People still go in your hairdressers and barbershops. So it works, right? And they're always looking for another way to connect with their customers as well. So you're giving them something to do.
Excellent. Here's a question that just came in. The gentleman is trying to use short videos on their local cable channel, but they tell him that they cannot use YouTube videos. They need to be the original video. How can I access the original video? Probably this would be a good question for both of you, because there are assets out there that people should be able to share for educational purposes. Andrea, could I start with you on this one?
Yeah, so for NFPA, we don't generally give you the original file because we don't want people modifying it. However, actually there is a way on and I'll get you I'll pop the address in the chat. There is an actual email address that you can do. And if there is a particular need and reason you want a video and you need the original file, you actually send us an email, and then we look at your request and you tell us how you're going to use it, because we want people using it. We don't want to restrict people using it, but we also don't want people adding things to it and modifying it, which is why it's not immediately downloadable. So I'll get that into the chat so that you have, if you ever have a question about if you want to use a Sparky image even, right? We've had people who've requested the Sparky image and they plastered him on an awesome Zamboni. They made the Zamboni look like a fire truck and they got Sparky waving, and it's great, right? And that was just an email to us so that we could look at the request and then get you the file you need. So
excellent. Teresa?
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Excellent. That's great to know, Andrea. How about from the U.S. Fire Administration?
Ours is the same thing. All you have to do is, well, if you email me, I can pass your request along, see if we have it, have the video still, and be able to send it on to you.
Perfect.
As an MP, probably as an MP4.
Very
Yeah,
good.
Our best email address is education@nfpa.org. Because depending on what your question is, it will go to the correct place. So I'm trying to type this in here and type it correctly.
And I'll make sure that Matthew also puts that when this video, which the session is being recorded, when this goes back up on the web, we'll make sure all those links are there. And it just came up, Andrea. Thank you very much.
Great. Yeah. And that's always, if you ever have a question about a usage of a Sparky image or anything, or you just have a question about a resource, you can't find a particular resource, that's the place to go.
Absolutely. Well, I knew there were answers, and we always want to provide our colleagues with those opportunities so that they can be, those requests can be reviewed on an individual by individual basis, and making sure the content is displayed as it should be, but making sure that we're trying to provide those assets when requested. The next question that's coming in is, what should fire departments do now to prepare for Fire Prevention Week? We're talking a few weeks away. Why do we need to really be thinking about this now? Teresa, how about if I start with you on this one?
What should they do now? Well, it's going to be hard to get materials from probably shipped from anywhere right now. But I would say what you should do is you should go on either website. You should you can also download now and start printing, or you can grab those URLs to use in your social media for people, tell them, we're going to, like I said, with the videos, we're going to walk through and talk about this story, and you can download this coloring sheet and we'll walk you through it during that time. I think at this point, using social media to do things, to do Zoom calls, do Facebook Lives, to get interest in the topics, share these videos that have been created. There's lots of resources out there for you to use. So yeah, at this point, because we're so close, I mean, I think you're looking a lot at social media.
Sure.
So Andrea, or like I said, restaurants, going to the grocery store, printing things out, giving them to them and letting them pass it out when they're bagging groceries, when they're putting something out for delivery, that just to get that information out into the community.
So I'm going to echo that you should go on firepreventionweek.org and grab everything you can. That, again, most of our stuff also has a spot like USFA's does where you can put your logo in. Our warehouse is still taking orders and shipping orders, and they are cranking away. So NFPA has its own warehouse, and actually every day I get an update because things are going fast in terms of the materials. We're very fortunate that people, the Sparky stuffies, and the Story of Sparky books, and of course the Fire Prevention Week materials. So there's still some in stock. If you're interested in purchasing anything else, get in there today, get in there tomorrow. You might find there's some stuff on back order, but we've actually have things coming in every day and going out every day. So if you're looking for materials to buy, there's still some stuff. Otherwise, in the meantime, definitely scroll around and start, doing it. It's never too late, right? So, if I was my mom, I'd say you should have thought of this before, but I'm me and I'm like you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Fire Prevention Week's right around the corner. What do I do? So there's still some stuff that you can get, and please take some time to look at it and see what you can do.
Well, and Andrea, this is one time also that many times we think or forget about working with our local broadcasters, our local media. So in that Fire Prevention Week toolkit is that sample media release.
Yes.
This would be the time to start formulating that, customizing it, taking that template that's already there, inserting the department's name, the community's name, and the community information, and starting to at least let the broadcasters know, whether it's radio, TV, or even print media, hey, this is going to be coming up. And then just prior to Fire Prevention Week, reminding them again,
Yes.
because because it gets very busy on an assignment desk editor schedule and reporter schedule and things like that. We want to open that dialogue here a couple weeks out. So this is perfect timing to start having that conversation, even with your community access television, to see what can be out there. If you're going to be doing a virtual open house or things like that, there's some great content that can be shared.
Yeah. And, don't be afraid to ask also. So, the piece about the media is just start with what's going on. This thing is going on. Here's what we want you to do. Here's why it's important, right? Don't bury it in a lot of stuff. Go right for it. And again, there's nothing wrong with your department having a wish list and say, we could do more for this community if we had X, Y, Z. And again, not just for Fire Prevention Week, but the holidays are coming up. And what does that mean? More cooking fires. And then it's going to get cold and there's going to be more heating fires. So this is a great opportunity, again, to continue with your community partners to say, we can do more and we'll give you publicity and thanks and free press if you're willing to, for a couple $100, which for them is nothing, but for a fire department budget can be huge.
Mm-hmm. I know the question has come up about what about reading or what about videos, copyright infringement. I've always found it beneficial to go right back to the author. As long as they know that it's going to be used for education and not for profit, they're more than willing in most cases to be able to allow their assets to be shared. They understand that not all children learn the same way and not all of our audiences are maybe able to read. But that is a very good point, that we always want to make sure we go back to those trusted sources and make sure that we obtain the permission, just like both Andrea and Teresa, you mentioned on the videos. There is a way to be able to do that. We just want to make sure communication is a top priority.
Yeah. And on the Sparky Schoolhouse website, anything that's there, you can read and use and do, again, as long as it's educational. And that's
Absolutely.
the point.
I was going to say, anything that we have at USFA, you're able to use. You don't have to ask us for permission. It's there. It's completely free for you to use. If there's an asset that you need that we don't have in the way that you need it, you just need to reach out and let us know so that we can try to accommodate your request. But you don't have to ask for permission to use anything on our website.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we've got a couple minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and make mention of the, before we conclude, the Make Me a Firefighter campaign from the National Volunteer Fire Council. The Make Me a Firefighter campaign has recruitment of materials and event planning guides. And this is an excellent opportunity when some departments may be going back traditional face-to-face open houses, or they may be doing their virtual open houses. And all of that free information can be accessed at portal, PORTAL, .nvfc.org. And this is an excellent opportunity to not only talk with the community about prevention, but also share what your department's needs are, because in many of our communities, we're always looking for people to help out with our outreach efforts, whether it's emergency operations, public education, whatever it happens to be. And the Make Me a Firefighter campaign allows for that to take place. So do either of you have any closing thoughts? We've just got a couple minutes here, but I thought I'd just do a quick roundtable. Anything maybe that we haven't covered that you think our audience would benefit from?
Anything you do is great. And I just want to say that to you. Thank you, because everybody is juggling, once again, multiple hats and multiple emergencies at once. So whether you grab the story of Sparky and read it, whether you grab some social media cards, whether you download some things, whatever you do is great, and it's worthy of it. And then don't forget that, just because Fire Prevention Week is a week, do stuff all month long and do things all year long, because you want your community to stay in touch with you all year long. So use those occasions to keep them on board with you. Great
advice, Andrea. Teresa?
Yeah, I echo what Andrea says. If you're finding yourself that, oh my goodness, it's just, it's a couple weeks away and what are we going to do? Anything is better than not doing anything at all, trying, like she said, using the social cards, doing something simple, that is okay. That is doing something. That is teaching you, that is showing your community that you care, that yes, it's Fire Prevention Week, but I care about you and I want to be able to give you things to make you safer. So doing anything, don't feel like you're oh, I should have thought about it a month ago. We're all busy. I can't even imagine how busy some of the fire departments are in these areas. So anything is better than nothing.
Excellent, Teresa. Well, that's going to close out our discussion today. That 1 hour went really quickly, but it's so exciting to have all of you join us. And I want to thank our panelists, Andrea Vastis and Teresa Neal. As a reminder, you can find resources to help you and your department prepare for Fire Prevention Week on NFPA's and USFA's websites. We'll go ahead and put links to those in this recorded session, and as well as the NVFC's Make Me a Firefighter campaign. If I haven't gotten anyone's questions, if you still have questions, you can certainly go ahead and email NVFC's communications coordinator, Matthew Odom, at Matthew, MATTHEW, at NVFC.org. Again, thank you all for the great work that you're doing, connecting with your community. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and have a stellar Fire Prevention Week.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.